Hi. So I'm just popping in because I don't know, I feel like I'm always going through some kind of transition. I feel like I'm always going through, and I'm going to try to look at the camera. I feel like I'm always going through some type of transition where um it's like these little moments of deep introspection, analyzing my situation and also feeling deeply into it and just traveling through the situation or the change. And then I come out on the other side and it feels like I've been in some kind of tunnel. Truly, sometimes the only way out is through. I'm all for skipping steps if necessary, if possible. I'm all for just going straight for the gold and going straight to the finish line, teleporting, quantum leaping, sprinting, flying, floating. That's probably my favorite. Floating and teleporting are probably my favorite ways to just skip steps. I just want to get to where I'm going and feel the next feeling of elevation, feel the next step and level in my life and level in my consciousness. You know what I mean? And I think consciousness and relationship with God interchangeable. Sometimes what we're talking about when we say certain terms, we're talking about just, it's kind of like everybody's a human, but everybody wears different clothes. But deep down inside, we all have the same core needs. We need love. We are love. We come from love. We're made from love, but we need to feel that reflected back to us, and we need to let that come through us on a daily basis. So I kind of feel like the same with consciousness or relationship with God. Like, framing is so important, and I feel like sometimes when we talk about one thing, it's like you're just speaking the way that you've known it to be spoken, but another school of thought can just say a different word, and now it means the same thing when you really think about it. I feel like we have separated so many things that just don't need to be separated. And then that's why we think we're disagreeing when we're really not. So that's just a little preamble. But one of the things I have been thinking about lately as I'm in this beautiful, beautiful park, I won't say where I am because I don't want, that's a little bit too much information, but I have been thinking about, wow, look at the whole ecosystem in this park. Look at the ecosystem in our bodies. Look at how we're learning. It's becoming public knowledge that we have a microbiome and all of these little organisms that work together to create our body, but we're not aware of it. And how many things are happening to us, causing us harm or feeding us that we're not even aware of? Like, do you ever stop to think about all of the things that may be coming together to affect your mental well-being and mental health and physical health that you may not be aware of? Every single conversation that you have with somebody, every time you hear somebody else have a nasty and contentious and bitter conversation, just even being in the midst of that, how is that affecting you? Now, I'm not saying this from a place of fear. I am saying this from a place of awareness, just to be aware, that, okay, um, when you're in the midst of people who are arguing, how is that affecting your energy field? You know what I mean? Like, it's worth thinking about. It's worth thinking about. And when you take in certain things, how is that affecting your energy field? Food, I feel like we have a pretty good understanding sometimes, at this point, because there's so much information out there about how eating this or eating that or eating this type of food over time is going to affect your heart. We know that smoking will affect your lungs over time. We know that certain behaviors or lack of certain behaviors, like lack of nature exposure, um, lack of thinking outside the box, how that can affect your brain, lack of exercise. We all know that lack of exercise can affect so many things. So I guess what I'm wondering is, do we think about those things when it comes to an energetic level? And do we think of those things when it comes to the environments that we put ourselves in? For instance, a job, right? Do we think that we can just go into a job that constantly makes our body feel on alert, under stress, and when we are just noticing things that don't really make sense and that seem a little bit off, or we're noticing this is out of integrity here, this is out of integrity here, this is not really lining up right here. Do we think that going into that environment day after day after day after day and subjecting ourselves to that, do we think that that is just nothing? Do we think that that's just not going to affect us over time, our health, our mental health? Do you think that it doesn't wear down on you over time? Because I think studies show that it does if you need that type of proof, but I'm definitely a living witness. I'm not sure if you've heard of something called burnout, but burnout is real. And I experienced that after being at a toxic job for 8 months. And I didn't know all of it was toxic. Sometimes you don't know until you reflect and reflect and reflect. And sometimes you don't know until you've been at a company that's also doing well and they didn't do those things and they didn't have those tactics. And you realize this is not necessary in order for a company to work. So why did I have to be subjected to it? And why did I have the physiological symptoms of going through something horrible just from being around this type of environment? So don't take it for granted. I mean, it may seem like you don't need to go to a park. It may seem like you don't need to go outside into your yard or go near a body of water and just like relax. It may seem like you don't need to go to the beach, but I don't know. Why would society have these things here and available to us for free? Why would they be protected? I understand it affects the ecosystem, it affects how we live if a lot of these natural habitats are disturbed, but it's also for our mental health. I mean, crime would probably be even higher than it already is if we didn't have these protected spaces. And if you don't take advantage of them, then you're probably doing yourself a disservice. So I like to talk about that because I feel that we don't think about it enough, or maybe we take for granted. And also on the positive side, because it's not always a negative thing. That happy conversation that you had with that friend, don't take that friend for granted that they're speaking life into you. And maybe you don't speak that often, or maybe they're really easy to get a hold of. Maybe they're actually really available to you. And then suddenly they're not. All of a sudden you're missing them in your life because you miss the good energy that they were pouring into you and the way that they were speaking into you and only speaking good. I mean, the reason why I can speak into anybody is because there are some universal truths that I believe that, I believe are actually true for anybody. So it's pretty easy across the board. I don't even have to know someone to say, hey, you are made from love. You'll always go back to love. And you're a product of that. That could make some people upset, but it's just like, I don't know, to anyone who's open to hear it, I'm willing to say it. And it makes it really easy for me to speak into people who I already kind of know as a friend. Because I can see their unique gifts. It really stands out to me. It's really easy to identify, like, hey, this is what you're good at. This is how you can affect people positively. So don't take those kind of things for granted. Now, the wise people who have been giving all of this energy away for free, and when I say for free, I don't mean just for not, a financial payment. I just mean they haven't expected anything in return. I don't think that's a wise thing. I'm already knowing that I will get what I deserve and my return on my good energy investment from my environment. So it doesn't have to be from you. You could disappear and hey, that may not be the source from which I'm going to receive that back, but I am going to receive my good energy back. So it's like I'm never really giving without expectation because I always affirm that I attract miracles, I expect miracles, a course in miracles. This is, if life is a class, then it's a course in miracles 101. And basically I already know that I'm going to get that back. And that's why I do it. Because yeah, it is a selfish thing. I mean, everybody is doing something for the benefit that they receive. It's not just to benefit someone else, because pretty soon you're going to be pouring from an empty cup and that's not going to be beneficial to you either. I'm trying to still look at the camera, but I don't know. I say this to say, don't take the environment that you place yourself in for granted, because it does matter and it does take a toll, and it does affect you, whether a negative or a positive way. It is making you who you are, what you choose to keep in and what you choose to let out. It is making you who you are from day to day to day. And I already made the decision that I don't want to lose myself. Sure, I have been inundated with certain beliefs, And then I had to question them because I have a brain, and I don't think God would have given me critical thinking without wanting me to exercise it. Basically, at the end of the day, um, I don't think it's too far fetched when you give your creation free will and they decide to question you. It's only right. It's only right. Um, if there were never any improvements in life, if there were never, like, look at how society has evolved for the better or for worse. I think that's a part of human nature. And I think that's how we were designed. So never be afraid to do that. And so getting back to my point, I was raised with certain things, but then I also like realize and discover certain things for myself. I think that's really, really so important in your consciousness slash relationship with God. Your relationship with your creator is your own. Who can come in and say what your relationship with your creator is supposed to be like? I mean, think about how presumptuous that is. It's kind of crazy how and people just give it up and they really could walk their own path no matter how it looks. I mean, I still have to battle feelings of inadequacy. I still have to do that, and it never really goes away. I mean, I hope and pray that it becomes a thing of the past for me. But I'm just saying, like, I still wonder if I'm making the right decision sometimes. But when I made the decision that I don't want to lose myself and the things that I believe for myself, then it became easier to walk in that, even though it seems a little bit rocky, even though it doesn't fit or match the so-called mold. Um, and then, of course, with ADHD and other superpowers, including intuition, which some people call discernment, it's the same thing. Is God talking to you and letting you know, hey, go this way or don't go that way? Deal with this person or don't deal with that person, or deal with this person in a certain way. I mean, why does it have to be so hard? And why do we have to, I don't know, in a sense, gatekeep what it truly is for everybody? And it's not just for a certain type of person. Like, intuition is for everybody and it could save your life. Um, I really just wanted to inquire that. Do we take into account the small ways in which we're being affected by our environments and the things that we're exposed to every single day and every single night? And I don't really want to hear, I don't know, certain voices in your head are louder than others. And I think that it's really important to come to an environment like this, or whatever your happy place is, whatever your peaceful place is. I have several, but and I'll find them anywhere I am in the world. Like, I don't need to be in a certain location. I just believe that I'm always going to be able to find it. But you need to be able to come here and clear out the other voices and really tune into what is God really saying to you in the way that is meant for you, not through somebody else's lens, not through the lens of any institution, through the lens of what you know has been placed in you for your purpose, which nobody can tell you, man. I'm telling you, it's really um, hard when you open your eyes to the contradictions and um, and to just the truth within yourself. I spoke to a good friend of mine about this, and she said that she knows that the life that she chose has brought her a lot of joy, but at the same time, she feels that she doesn't have any money, you know. But I mean, but she's also very rich in many, many things. I mean, she's a truly radiant being. And I don't think that's not for nothing. And I just, one of the worst things you can do is have something called black and white thinking. Look it up and have this all or nothing thinking. It's something that I really, really intended to just break out of, because I think you can really throw a lot of opportunities away when you look at things black and white. You can rob yourself of happiness and joy. So if she were to look at her life as, it didn't really mean much because I just never had the amount of money that I wanted, then she would totally be dismissing everything good about what she's built, about her life, and the way that she's impacted people, impacted me, you know? And open doors for me in terms of her way of thinking and how she moves about the world, how it affects me in a positive way. Um, when you just don't honor yourself and you choose black and white thinking versus like finding that nuance and respecting the gray areas, man, like I said, there's just a few absolute truth, and I only choose to accept the absolute truths that will serve me. Like, duh, I'm not going to choose to believe something that ultimately condemns me. No. Um, and as long as I stay on that path, I know I'm good because that is my trust. That is my trust in God. Like, regardless of what happens, I'm good, and it's not, but if you're not a believer, this, and if, well, that's, it's not about being a Christian. It's about trust. And I just really, I need to drive that point home because, well, you know, I think every person has to figure that out for themselves. When you live in a box, there's just a lot of the world and people that you choose not to see. And I don't want to be like that. I just don't think that's how I was meant to be. Um, and it's been difficult, but it's really been a beautiful life so far. When I look at my highlight reel, when I think about my life, it's been beautiful so far. And when I when I have people who really know who I am and see the truth of who I am, like my friend, and she said, I've seen you, and when you seem to talk about how you like to eat a certain way and spend your time a certain way, and you're prioritizing your physical health and movement and your body, that seems like who you are. Now, why do I need an outside person to reflect back to me who I am? I don't know, but I just think that that's the way that we were sent here, to be there for each other as mirrors. And it was a good reminder as I go through a, a huge decision that I was making. I mean, it was a decision that, it felt huge. It seemed simple at first. And then the further I got into it, I kept complicating it and complicating it and complicating it, thinking about every single angle. And that's okay, because I kind of like that I do that, because I really actually like that I do that at the end of the day. I use ChatGPT to help me sort out a lot of thoughts, and I went back and forth, but I got to go with what gives me peace. Like down here, you know, where my second brain lives. um, Gut microbiome, that's your second brain, by the way. Um, and then it became simple. It became simple. So it became simple. That's all I want to say about it right now, because man, when you start to deviate from your path, you're gonna feel it in your body. Then kind of not going the right way. I mean, it's not that it's wrong, but there's just a better, easier way. Trust that. Trust that. Trust your better, easier way sometimes. Trust that sometimes. There can be more difficult paths. I've taken difficult paths before, but I mean, everything is difficult relatively, because, my friend who's chosen to live joyfully and follow her path and follow her passion and become an expert in her craft, she has had the difficulty of not fitting into the mainstream. So that's truly difficult. And people will look at her, people who go the typical route will look at her and be like, oh man, I don't know how you do it. And then she's looking at the 9 to 5 typical people every once in a while. When she gets down on herself, she's like, oh man, I wish I could do what you did. I wish I could have just did what you did. But then I wouldn't have had this, my joy. And then one day you'll see that, well, everybody was meant to bring a certain value to the world. And it wasn't all the same. Sometimes I wish that I was the person who could just go into one of those environments that don't fit who I am and just brush it off and just, whatever. I've never been that. And why start now? because you're 40, because, you need this. I've got to find stability in the way that makes sense for me. Point blank, period. Okay, so I'm going to continue my walk, but I really hope that that was beneficial to you. And I hope you got something out of it. So keep dreaming those happy dreams, because ADHD stands for always dreaming happy dreams. And I'm here to tell you that it's worth it. It's worth it to continue dreaming happy dreams and visualizing your future and your present in the way that benefits you and serves you. You are all of those things, and you deserve all of those things. You deserve everything good. You deserve things to be handed to you. You deserve to feel the achievement of accomplishments of working hard for something, but you also deserve someone to say, hey, I see you working hard. I'm going to give you this. We're all coming in at a different frequency, and I don't think it's all meant for us to level out and match up and just write it out that way. I think we're all matching up at different times, and that's the beauty of it. We can learn from each other. We can learn from each other as we match up and deviate from those different frequencies. So I hope it makes sense. But okay, take care. Bye.